Hey everybody, happy Saturday afternoon. This is Across the Pitch post-game show on AAT Sports Network. I am Mike Barrera. I'm live at Sewer Park. Kyle, Todd, Jose. Well, Jose's not at the stadium today, but Kyle and all of them are currently waiting for the press conference from Coach Bradley Carnell. But I'm riding this one solo. I know the comments will come in as well to kind of help keep the show going here. But the Philadelphia Union earned their second consecutive win at home as well, and also a 3-0 win today, the same result that we saw against Atlanta. So, I mean, overall, the Philadelphia Union are starting to trend in the right direction, especially before their Open Cup match against the Indy 11 Montreal, and then the Indy 11 on May 7th. So we have a couple of matches up ahead before the Open Cup, but we saw a team today that in the first half, in my opinion, looked like the worst of the two teams. I thought DC United had the better opportunities overall in the first half. I thought they probably should have had at least one goal in the first half as well. I'd argue that Andre Blake may have been the man of that first 45 minutes, considering the defense kind of left him out to dry on a couple occasions. But I'd say in terms of the overall performance, the second half is really when the Union kind of came together and put things I'd say more at the pressure of against putting DC United in difficult situations, and obviously the result ended up being exactly what we were hoping for—a nice, easy win against a team that we probably are better than overall, and a team that we'll be seeing again in DC. So you want to make sure you earn the home 3 points, home win as well. So we have a few things to discuss tonight. First and foremost, let's discuss the overall result. Again, 3-0. We had goals from Jacob Glesnes in the 15th minute, Danley John Jocks in the 52nd minute, and Bruno Damiani in the 77th minute. So we got a couple comments coming in here. Valerie joins us. Jacob was all smiles being interviewed by Sage with his youngest son on his shoulders. Goal of the week. It was Kids Day today, so I love to see that the kids being involved. If you watch the pre-match festivities, you saw the Union players' children out there hitting the drum. I think it was Andre Blake's son that was hitting the drum. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong there, but great to see the kids involved today, and the atmosphere and everything today was wonderful. So, goal of the week, Valerie. I'd say it has to be in contention. I mean, it was quite a strike from a center back for sure. So we'll see how that pans out. I guess come Monday, whenever they vote for that. Philly Rovers joins us. Agree on the first half, though. That's our DC United. Listen. I credit the Union for taking that moment when they had it for that goal. If you followed us a couple years ago, we interviewed Thomas Gronemark, who was the throw-in coach for the Union, I think in the 2022 season when they went to MLS Cup. And he really mentioned the quick throw-ins and making sure your throw-ins were effective in order to get a goal out of them. So if you see it, Frankie throws it into Indy. It's a quick 1-2 right back to Westfield. And credit to him, he didn't just sit back, kind of receive the ball. He did push himself forward in front of the defender, get the ball, and it was a beautiful cross in Jacob Glesnes. Now, yeah, he could have easily trapped that. He probably had enough time to trap it. For him to just take it off the volley, one time in the back of the net was really, really great. And we have kind of been on Glesnes all season so far in terms of his defensive ability. I think a lot of people would agree that he hasn't had the best season. A couple matches he's been fine. A couple times he's had some head scratching moments. Even today, he had a couple turnovers today. They were like, okay, it's not what we want to see from Jacob. But from a confidence booster, you have to think that feels good for Jacob, because it's just a clinical finish, and it was something that really shifted the momentum of the match a little bit. Because in the first 10 to 15 minutes, I thought DC was going to get a goal. I thought we had trouble getting out of our own half. The passes really weren't that clinical in the first half at all for the Philadelphia Union. Now, was that because of the rain? Maybe. It did come down for about 10 to 15 minutes pretty steadily. It was a pretty good wind as well. But it did kind of at least get the Union back into the flow of things. I'd say as the first half went on, still DC kind of had the better opportunities. And again, credit to Andre Blake. He came up big when we needed to. Do I think Andrew Rick could have saved some of those? Yes, I do. But regardless, there's a bit of more confidence when Andre Blake's back there, when it's a one-on-one opportunity. And these players are going to try to go over him or around him, and they simply cannot. And we were fortunate as Union fans that DC didn't knock one to the back of the net. So a couple more comments here. Valerie says, here we go. Valerie says 101st clean sheet for Andre. Philly Rover says no Chick-fil-A tonight. Valerie adds in rain, wind, sunshine. I was wondering if there would be snow before the end of the game. It was an oddly was an odd weather game today. There was times where it was a little chilly, and then it got hot, and then it was humid, and then it was raining. It was a little bit of everything, as you expect from the East Coast. But I'm glad that it went away fairly quick. Todd, Kyle, and Skylar in the press box with we were kind of taking side bets like, hey, where are the puddles going to form today on the field? Because we were kind of remembering that Seattle match from last year where there was just puddles all across the entire field. So thankfully, it did not get to that torrential of a downpour where we started seeing little lakes forming on the Subaru Park pitch. But the grass held up. I think it was a little slippery at times. I saw a couple players fall. I know Kevin had this one opportunity late in the game where he slipped on the grass as well. So it was a bit slippery out there, but overall, I think it held up tonight. Philly Rovers mentions good Scottish footy weather today. Valerie says puddles. It was a lake at that game. It really was. And we were hoping that we might see the squeegees come out to kind of clear the field. But thankfully, all that stayed away, and Mother Nature held on to us today for the game. So first half ends. Like I said, wasn't too pleased with it. I was hoping they would come out strong in the second half. And they did. I think right off the bat, they kind of attacked the DC United defense pretty quickly. In the 52nd minute, we see the goal from Danley John Jacques. Now, I think we've kind of hinted at before in last year and the year before, Jose Martinez, seeing him playing more forward, being more aggressive on the ball when he has the opportunities. And we were hoping to see the same from Danley when he joined us. I think we saw a bit more of that today in that opportunity. Danley does a great job just pushing and taking the chance when he had it. It wasn't that powerful of a strike. It wasn't like he really even hit it perfectly, but he just hit in the right spot, right off the post. A little bit of fortune went his way, and you make it 2-0. And sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes you just have to take your chance when you have it. And thankfully for the Philadelphia Union, it resulted in a 2-0 lead at that point. And then it was the 52nd minute. So you're thinking, okay, you have to just hold on now for the next 40 minutes. You don't want to give up a lead. For me personally, I want to see another shutout. That's what I was. Once it turned 2-0, I was like, okay, we have a little bit of a lead. We have the cushion now. Let's try to get that shutout. So Philly Rovers here says DC needs Rooney back. I don't know if that will save them. But right now they're 2, 3, and 5. So listen, whatever might help them down the road. Maybe Rooney's return could do that. But seeing Danley John Jacques score that goal was great to see. I believe he now has 2 goals on the year. And I think for a lot of us, we were so anxious to see Jose Martinez score his first goal. But I guess ironically enough, now we have Lukic and Danley both playing the similar position, scoring, I think, a total of 4 goals this year. I know Lukic has 2. I believe Danley now has 2 as well. So before these 2 guys came around, Martinez was known for those launching it over the net, really having these erratic type of strikes on goal. Lukic and Danley have shown to be much more clinical. They're more precise with their shots. I'm really pleased to see the offensive output from that position because it just makes his team more dangerous. Like, do you want to see Damiani and Ua and Baribo score? Of course you do. You want to make sure your offense is scoring and your offensive players are scoring. But when you have multiple players attacking and multiple players able to put one in the back of the net, it just makes you that much more dangerous. So to see the first 2 goals come from defenders was awesome because as we kind of talked about recently, Baribo has not really been in the best form. Yes, he had a goal last week when Quinn Sullivan gave him that assist there for his strike. Great. But I don't know if he got a shot off today. I don't believe he did have a shot on that today. So when the offense isn't clicking, it's nice to know that there's at least second or third options behind them to put that in the back of the net. Valerie mentions here, I was already thinking, dang, what would be without Danley when he scored? Yep, he's been great. He really has, especially with Lukic out. I think that's the one thing that we were a bit concerned by, and I'll talk about Bueno's performance today. We haven't seen this team without Lukic, at least in my recollection. So I'd say arguably he's been one of the better players so far this season. I think Quinn Sullivan is in that conversation about one of the better players across the board throughout the season. But Lukic has been a game changer for this team, and he's been really strong in front of that back line. So him being absent today was pretty significant. Now we see Jesus Bueno make the start today. I think I mentioned on our preview show, and I'm actually positive I did on the preview show we did on Thursday, I wanted to see Bueno slot into that position to start. I know we joked around, well, what if Cavan starts at the 10 and you put Indy Vasilev in the 6 with Danley, which actually ended up happening later on the match. But as funny as that would have been on Kids' Day of all days, you need to see what Bueno is going to do. With Daniel Gazog now removed, and everybody kind of taking one step forward now on the pecking order for the bench, where does he fall into that rotation? So I thought he came in today and did a fine job. Was I blown away by Jesus Bueno? No. I think Cole hits around the head. Not going to lie, I wasn't overly impressed with Bueno. I wasn't either. Did he blow me away? No. Was he absolutely horrific and terrible? No. Did he have a couple passes that he probably should have been more crisper? Absolutely. I think he had at least two that I can remember. That was like, Bueno, you probably could have had a better strike on that, but he wasn't terrible. He didn't make any sort of careless mistakes. He didn't do a Jose Martinez and went too over the top and get himself a yellow card or anything extreme. I think he did a serviceable job. I think that's an honest description of Bueno's day today. A serviceable job. He gets removed. I think it was in the 65th minute. I can look at it right now. He gets subbed off. Let me see in the statistics and the commentary. ESPN is a little bit difficult with these kind of things. I'll look at it in a second. If somebody can mention as well. Oh, yeah. The 62nd minute, Kevin Sullivan replaces Jesus Bueno. So he saw 60 minutes today. I was fine with it. Now, in terms of the subs after that, or the second half, rather, continue to the second half, we had subs from Macania for Wagner later on in the match, Kevin Sullivan and Bueno, Jeremy Raffanello, Vasilev, Chris Donovan, Ua, and Damiani for Baribo. Now, I like to see the addition of Damiani off the bench. I thought that was really positive. Now, in his goal that we saw today for Damiani, we see the strength that he has and the ability he has. Now, it reminds me of Corey Burke, that very strong forward attacking player. It reminds me of Ua as well. I think we've all talked about this recently. Michael Ua is a very strong player. We saw it a couple times today where he's really just muscling out his defenders. Ua flicks it just enough to get it to Damiani, and he earned that goal for very much so. He bodied his defender, put the ball on his left foot, and struck it perfectly. So great to see him now get on the board as well. I know we talked about Baribo recently. He's been kind of on and off. Ua hasn't seen the back of the net for a couple games now, but we want to see Damiani scoring. We know what he came over for. We know the impact he was supposed to bring over. We haven't had a reliable third striker in a while. So having three guys that can continuously come into the match and be a threat offensively is great. So love seeing Damiani scoring. Love seeing Ua getting the assist. It's a good confidence booster for all three of those guys. I know Baribo didn't score today, but at least he gets the header last week. So it's every single match we're seeing some striker being involved, some striker either getting an assist or getting a goal. Going to get these comments up here. Here we go. Philly Rover says Danley did a very chic celebratory kiss the camera post goal to SBN. Cole says that was hilarious, especially since he wouldn't stop talking about him. Oh, I guess people were mispronouncing him. Says Callan Williams kept calling him Calvin. I think, Valerie, you might be, and if you're still commenting, yes, you are. I believe they were also mispronouncing Glessis' name, and they said the Philadelphia United. So, Valerie, if you want to comment anything they were saying tonight on the Apple broadcast, let me know, because the Apple announcers are just nowhere near as good as Dave Leno and everybody else that we have had the fortune of listening to. Valerie says Mika's assist was great, a precise header. Philly Rover says I didn't see Ua at all tonight. I thought he was coming on when he was subbed. And we're going to keep going to the substitutions now. So we get the three goals. Now, one noticeable absence tonight was that Bedoya was not on the bench. I'm sure they're asking in the press conference right now if there's something going on with Bedoya. I believe Todd Lewis, who was sitting next to me today in the press conference, highlighted that he saw Bedoya's kids out there. So we're not sure if maybe this was just an injury he might have picked up late. I'm not entirely sure. If any of you guys are listening to the press conference, please pass along any info that you hear. But we'll be curious to know what happened to Alejandro Bedoya tonight. But on the bench today, again, we have Macania, Sullivan, Raffanello, Donovan, Damiani, Rick, Pierre, Bizo, and David Vasquez. I liked that we kept Vasilev on the field and we took Bueno out. I like that we brought Vasilev into the position next to Danley and gave Cabin a chance up top. I was surprised that he got nearly half an hour, though. I figured Cabin was going to start seeing more minutes. I thought it was going to be more so like as we saw from Raffanello late in the game, maybe 10 to 5 minutes just to kind of get him more acclimated. I'm really glad that Coach Carnell gave him a half an hour. Was it maybe because of the 2-0 lead? Sure. fine. It could have been because of that extended lead that we had a little more wiggle room, a little more cushion. But I thought Cavan did fine. Again, I would, similar to Bueno, I wasn't overly impressed. I wasn't disappointed. I thought he was aggressive. He had a couple chances where he tried to put the ball into the box. He had a couple crisp passes overall. He doesn't feel like a 15-year-old kid out there. He looks like he can handle himself in these short stints. I'm going to bring up a couple more comments. Valerie says he did say Galesness every time, referencing the announcers with Jacob Glessner. So there's another mispronunciation there. Manny joins us saying Ty being taken out before Ua surprised me. We saw the pairing of Ua and Damiani. I believe it was last week, and we all thought it went well. We thought they were paired well together, and then Brebo comes on to get that goal. I do like, though, Mandy, that it's not predictable, right? Is Ua going to play 90 minutes? Is he going to play 60? Who's going to start today? I love that. I love this competition. I love that there is never a certainty with who's going to come into the match. I was even surprised later on in the match, Makanya comes on for Wagner. In my opinion, I'm thinking, okay, Frankie West was going to go into the left back position. Nathan Harrell's going to slot to the right. Instead, Nathan goes to the left back. Frankie stays out to the right, and Makanya slots into the center back. So I love that Carnell's not getting predictable, and he's showing the versatility these players have. The same thing with Raffanello. He comes onto the match. I'm like, oh, he's replacing Vasilev, and he's staying in that position. Now, I believe Todd Lewis, who was sitting next to me again, he mentioned that Raffanello had played in that back defensive position against Portland last year. So there have been times where he has been in that role. But still, with Jim Curtin, you were more often than not seeing Raffanello at the top of the 10 on the right side of the diamond. It was pretty much consistent with where he was going to be. So seeing Raffanello slot into that defensive midfield position is intriguing to me. It's nice to see the versatility across the board with this roster. I'll bring up a couple more comments. Cole says, I definitely want to see more of Cavan. So do I. If you're not going to replace Daniel Gazdag, let's just let the experiment then happen. Give Cavan more time. I think Indy Vasilev is a good replacement for Daniel at this current point. If this is the plan that the Philadelphia Union front office and coaching staff want to do, fine. Do I agree with it 100%? No. Would I rather see someone come in as an addition that has some more experience? Yes. I think depth is never a bad thing. But if this is the path you want to take, then just let's see more and more of him. And I thought a half hour today was perfect, especially given the 2-0 lead that they had. Evan says, see what happens when Glessner stays in position and doesn't get dragged out. Two clean sheets in a row. And from talking to Kyle Almany and Todd, this is the 5th clean sheet. And again, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I just kind of hopped in here as soon as the game was over. But they begin to pile up on these clean sheets so far this season, which is surprising considering how much we've said that the back line and the center backs have been pretty on and off. And we've also discussed that these center back pairings right now have been inconsistent, and arguably the weakest our center back pairings have been in 5 or 6 years, at least, since Glessner and Elliott carried this back line for so long. So to see that, even though they're not playing phenomenal, especially in that first half when they gave up way too many chances against Andre Blake, the fact that they are still earning clean sheets, I think, is important for their confidence. Sometimes you just have to get there, and the improvements will come along the way. Mandy says it was what we call ooh o'clock. So when it wasn't him, it was just a surprise. Yeah, again, I think the curtain predictability was okay. It's a 60th minute. Let's wrap this up with Michael Ooh and get him off the field. And I know Dave Miller, who's joined us on our show plenty of times, has said, why did we go out and get Ooh for so much money if he can't even play a full 90 minutes? How is this really showcasing what he can do, especially if you were trailing or if you needed a second goal or whatever it might be? Ua would come off and you would have Donovan, and it didn't really make much sense. So I love that it's getting a little less predictable each and every single week. Philly Rover says, yeah, we need that Ilsinho, we need that Corey off the bench. And Mandy confirms, thank you, Mandy, 5th clean in 10. It's surprising. And I think Philly Rovers, to your point with the bench piece, who's going to be the spark that's coming off in the 60th and 70th minute today was Damiani. He did a great job. He almost had a second goal late in the game, if I remember correctly, right around stoppage time. So it's clearly going to be a striker or a forward that's going to be that super sub, whether it be Ua, Baribo, or Damiani, whoever it is. We know they're capable enough to put one into the back of net and make a threatening presence against the defense. Um, in terms of behind that, who would it be? Will it be Kevin Sullivan by the end of the year? I don't know. I don't think right now he should be considered a reliable substitution, considering his age and considering his inexperience. But if you're looking at by September, if you're giving him 20 to 30 minutes every single week, at least giving him 15 to 10 and making him a consistent part of this lineup, he is going to mature and he's going to grow and he's going to get stronger. And you're going to see more of a presence when he's on the field rather than maybe today. Like I said, I wasn't overly impressed, but I wasn't exactly disappointed. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Kevin Sullivan will look like come August, September, October. Right now, I think it's kind of hard to gauge exactly what we're going to see from him. And then Philly mentions Damiani did almost have one off of the Cavan almost assist. Yeah, that would have been quite the sight to see if Cavan could have gotten an assist today on Kids Day. Philly Rover says this is early game, more on Dave's friendly. Yeah, listen, Dave was actually away for Gillingham today, if I remember correctly. So he could not make it. He's still probably traveling back home from that. So he will probably be on our show next week to kind of help with this whole process. Mandy says Cav is still growing into his feet. Sometimes he just seems to run and get ahead of himself. And that's going to come with age and the speed of the game. I mean, as we've talked about last week and probably several weeks beforehand, Union 2 and MLS Next Pro is just not the same. It's not the same speed. It's not the same quality. It's tough to go from that level of competition and then bring it to MLS. So to help fix that, we need to see more time from him. That's simple as that. As Cole said, he wants to see more, and I think all the fans want to see more too. Especially if this team is winning. Having a winning club and then having this experimental, youth prodigy coming in and making it more exciting, it's fun. It's exciting to watch. I'm not going to lie to them. As soon as Cavan got his number called, yeah, I was more into the game. Let's see what he can do. I was focused on him so much more. And the defenders do have to pay attention. He is a skilled teenager for what he is 15, but he's also really talented and he can easily put one in the back of the net. And I think you saw today that he's not afraid to get involved, which is phenomenal, especially for such a young player. Again, looking at the bench too, Andrew Rick was the backup goalkeeper again today. Once again, Oliver Semley does not see the bench whatsoever. Cole says here he brings more than Ali or Dono and probably even Rafa. I would have to agree with that. And I think that was a conversation that we had this past Thursday when we had our midday show with Alejandro Bedoya. The one concern we all had, well, not all of us, but at least myself and a few other people had, was what happens if Alejandro starts today and not Bueno? What happens if Alejandro sees more minutes than Bueno? I'm glad that we kind of saw that answer today. Now, granted, Alejandro wasn't even on the roster today, so maybe there's something more to that. Maybe if Bedoya is available, we would see a little bit something different. But in terms of what is brought to the field, yeah, I think Cavan brings more. You're right. He brings more speed, brings more energy. Is the intelligence the same as Alejandro Bedoya? Probably not, considering the amount of experience that Bedoya has. But in terms of someone you can plug in and being a spark, an electricity spark off the bench, yeah, I'd rather see Kevin Sullivan over Alejandro Bedoya. And that's what I hope Carnell continues to see. Same thing with Donovan. I don't think Donovan should see the field unless it's like we saw today, late in the game. Just get your second forward out of the field, let him get some rest, and throw Donovan on there to close out the match. At this point, we should not be expecting Chris Donovan to score. We should be expecting Chris Donovan to continue the pressure, maybe get lucky and sneak behind the back line, run the ball to the corner if you need to. Don't do anything dumb, which I don't think Chris Donovan really does anything stupid overall. I think he's a pretty reliable player in that regard. But put him in a situation where he's not going to feel pressured to constantly have to get a goal to take the lead, which is what we saw with Curtin time and time again, where Ua, as Mandy said, gets taken out, Chris Donovan gets thrown in, and now we expect him to score a goal with 30 minutes to go, and he's just not that player. He's just simply not. And Raffanello, Cole, I think Raffanelli is still an interesting experiment that we really haven't seen enough of. He barely saw the field last year. When he did, it was in these weird situations that really doesn't give us a good idea of what he can do. Today, we saw him replacing the defensive mid position, which was something that I hadn't remembered watching him play. And so I don't know where Raffanello is going to get more minutes, and if we can even see what he can truly bring over a longer stretch. But again, it's not a bad problem to have when you're talking about your fifth substitution, your sixth player off the bench being Raffanello. I'm not too concerned by that. Cole mentions here maybe Bedoya was busy doing his office job or whatever it is for the club. I listen. I don't know what Bedoya's role is going to be once he officially retires. I'm assuming it's going to be after this season, and maybe he had some desk work to do today. Cole, I don't know. Mandy says here there is a pair of guys in our section that literally get up and leave anytime Donovan is subbed on. Wow, that's pretty alarming. Considering I know people don't like to see Donovan play, but end of the day, you gotta support the badge. You gotta support the team. You might not always agree with what the coach is doing, but you have to support the your the Philadelphia Union, not the Philadelphia Donovans, right? Mandy says, surprised we haven't loaned Rafa out to a USL club. Oh, domesticated hoagie. Thanks for joining me. I know you're always on Todd's show in the comments, so I appreciate you joining me. Bedoya was busy applying for Medicare. Listen, I'm not much younger than Alejandro Bedoya, so let's take it down on the Medicare and the AARP talk here. But that's pretty funny. To Mandy's point with Raffanello, we talked about this on our Thursday afternoon show with Jose Nunez right after the preview press conference with Carnell. We all want to see these players loaned out a bit more. I know we talked about Andrew Rick being loaned out. I'd love to see him get more minutes with the USL club. I think him not being loaned out tells you how little faith they have in Oliver Semele. That's just me talking. I'm not saying that's what they're saying, but to me personally, keeping Andrew Rick around at this club behind Andre Blake makes me believe they really just don't have any faith in Semele. So in that case, do you loan out Semele and let Andrew just be that second guy and have him be the Union 2 goalkeeper as well? I have no idea. I really don't. It's an interesting situation that's unfolding with our second and third keeper. Valerie mentions Dax McCarty on MLS 360 has chosen Kai in his best 11 of the first quarter of the season. I think, if anything, Valerie, even though Kai has missed 2 games, you got to see how important he is to the club when he's not playing. You could argue that he is our MVP of that starting 11 rotation, because once he's on the field, you just don't have that creativity. You don't have the attack. You don't have the defensive one-on-one skills. No offense to Westfield or Nathan Harriel, they are just not Kai Wagner. And he is and has been the best left back for many years now for a reason. So for Dax to put him up there as the best 11 the first quarter of the season, I have no problem with that. I think today he was, again, very involved, did a fine job. And besides that corner kick he had, which was not very good, he's Kai Wagner, and he comes up to the plate every single time and puts together a good performance. Cole says, Bedoya does actually have some job for the club, I think. I just don't really know what it consists of. Frank says DC had a couple really good chances today, like Atlanta's. Last week might have been a different game. And Frank, that's exactly what I mentioned for the first half. I really thought this should have been 1-1. It could have easily been 2-1. DC United entering halftime. I think I can't remember if it was a 2023 season. There was a good stretch where just things didn't bounce our way. And I remember Curtin said, it's the opportunities are there, the ball's just not bouncing our way. And eventually it's going to turn in our favor. I think today, Frank's a great example of the ball bouncing your way. You had the one-on-one with a DC attacker. I can't remember his name right now. And Andre, and he kind of skies it over him. And there's a couple chances where I thought the DC players should have been more clinical. And also, Frank, to your point, Benteke didn't play today, and neither did, what's his name? I'm trying to think right now off the top of my head, Peglo, if I remember pronouncing it correctly here. I'm going to look it up real quick. Yeah, Peglo. Both of them were out today. I think if both of those players play for DC United, this is probably a draw, if not 2-2, 3-2, more of a high-scoring shootout. We talked on the Thursday preview show. The last few games between the Philadelphia Union and DC United have been 4-goal games. I mentioned as well from a betting perspective, I liked the under 3.5, which ended up hitting today. I think if Benteke or Peglo or both play today, it probably would have been a 4 to 5 goal game. I think the fact that they were both injured was one of those moments where the ball bounced the Union's way. I think it did. I think they got very fortunate. But in that situation, Frank, I said before the game to Todd and Kyle, your DC United is missing 2 of their best players. There is absolutely no reason why you should not be winning this game at home. absolutely zero. This was, in my eyes, a must-win game, not because it's going to impact the season long term, not because they're going to miss the playoffs so they don't win this game. That's not the point. The point is, if you want to create a winning culture, which we lost last year, if you want to make Super Park a fortress, if you want to show that you are able to finish out weaker opponents, a game like today is a must-win. You have to be able to do it, and I think Carnell and the players, despite the shaky 20-30 minutes to start the game, did enough to earn an impressive 3-0 win, their second consecutive shutout, their second consecutive 3-goal victory. Mandy mentions here, Dax is right upsided that exactly. Look at how we did a couple games without him versus with him. It's clear as day, which it concerns me that we rely so much on Kai Wagner's presence to win and to look to look impressive in a soccer match. When he's out of the game, it's so obvious. I would hope that Carnell can, when the time's right, bring him off the field just to get him some rest. We saw that today. He was kind of not limping, but he had a bit of a knock late when he came out. So just try to save his legs. We have a long season. Assuming that we do push for Open Cup, which I think Jose and I talked about at length on Thursday, we want to see them go for Open Cup. If he is involved heavily in Open Cup, he's playing possibly, close to 40 games this year. We want to make sure he's healthy. So maybe against Montreal, a very weak opponent, he gets to come off with the 45th minute to save him for Open Cup. I don't know. Whatever it is, I hope that Carnell puts a lot of emphasis and importance on Kai Wagner's health. Because, again, to your point and to everybody else commenting, he might be the most valuable player we have besides Andre Blake. Mandy mentions Benteke is a force of nature. Would have been a completely different game with him. And you know what? Credit to Jacob Glesnes over the years, and I guess Jack Elliott too. I think they've held Benteke in check. I mean, Glesnes and Benteke have gone at it in the past, and I feel like Glesnes has been the victor of that matchup more often than not. But with this current form of Jacob Glesnes, I don't feel like that would have been the case. I think today you probably would have seen a more of a victory from Benteke in terms of probably putting one in the back of the net, because I think he would have finished some of those chances today. Okay, so again, the Philadelphia Union earn a 3-0 victory. Up next, they have CF Montreal, and then on the 7th of May is when they host the round of 32 game against the Indy 11, and that's really when it gets started. I genuinely believe they can go to Montreal and pull off a win. I'd be disappointed if it's anything less than a draw. I think if it is a draw, I think to Jose's point, it has to be based off, yo, man, what's up? I think if it is a draw, it has to be because the Union have heavily rotated their squad. You want to join in and comment?
Sure.
I got Pat Bernard here. Let me see if I can take off my headset and it won't mess up my thing. Can you guys still hear me? I'm sure you guys can still hear me. Okay, I'm gonna turn like this. We got Pat Bernard here. Where do you write at now?
I am with Extreme Punk Entertainment.
Okay.
So, yeah, listen, I'm with Extreme Punk Entertainment as one of their writers. But listen, I came in because I heard The Godfather from all the way downstairs.
I know, I got a loud voice.
No. But listen, you do a great job, Mike. But this game was it was actually kind of scary for the Philadelphia Union because DC, believe it or not, they had a lot of scoring opportunities.
Yes, they did.
Off the rush, which actually scared me because if they actually had a playmaker, this could have been a lot worse. And luckily, the Philadelphia Union have one of the top goal scorers in the league.
Yep.
Or one of the top goalkeepers in the league.
Yep.
They're lucky that Andre Blake was back there because this could have been a lot ugly. It could have got ugly fast.
Absolutely, and the commenters and I mentioned, like, Benteke was out, Pegula was out. I think if both of those players are in this game, you may have lost this match. I think you could have been down 2-1 by the halftime, which would have been really just awful considering you're at home. You need to make sure this place is a fortress at home, and you're not blowing these 3 points against weaker opponents. And DC United is a weaker opponent. And I'm just going to say it. They are. Look at their record. They haven't been that dominant this year. This is a team that you should handle easily. The same way with Atlanta. Same exact way.
Yeah, listen, they were trying to build momentum from last week. They beat the Red Bulls. They're trying to come down here, get their second road win straight. But like I just mentioned, they're lucky. Like you were just saying, they're an inferior opponent. There's a reason why they're one of the bottom feeders of the league. But just got done finishing the press with Bradley Cornell. I said, you mentioned about they didn't look so pretty in the beginning.
Yeah.
You mentioned you were getting cooked off the rush a few times,
Yeah.
but they made the adjustments. They played a solid second half. Good quality scoring from the dog himself, Jacob Glasnes.
That was a hell of a goal.
Yeah, it was a hell of a goal.
Hell of a strike.
Bruno Diami, who had big question marks,
Yep.
actually finally answered the bell.
I thought so too.
So, and I don't want to butcher his name because was it Gene something?
Oh, Danley Jean Jacques.
Yeah, I mean, back to back goals, back to back in back to back games. So he's shown he's got a little bit of a dog. But again, this is a nice build up because if you go into Montreal, handle business out there.
That's right.
Handle business in the Open Cup. Let the Union 2 get most of that. But this is all going to lead up to May 10th.
So listen, I'll bring up the May 10th. Columbus plays against San Jose today at 7:30 p.m. They just lost to Miami. They'd beaten St. Louis 2-1 before that. So I'm not saying that, and they play Charlotte after the game against San Jose. So they could easily. I mean, Charlotte's been pretty good this year. They could definitely come into Chester off a loss. So if you're talking about, I mean, let's not sugarcoat this. The Columbus Crew are a better roster and team than the Philadelphia Union. But in terms of confidence, in terms of just momentum, if you can catch Columbus on a road after a loss in Chester, when you've just won, what would be 4 in a row, you have a chance to knock off one of the top teams in the East and welcome back Daniel Gazdag with a rude awakening.
Yeah, look, how pretty would it be? And you know what? I everyone who's questioned Bradley Cornell after, his start, he looked like it was a honeymoon stage, and this team went through a little bit of a rough patch. Three games ago, and only coming up with 1 goal. But now they these get right games against Atlanta, against DC. You're working on things. You're finding unsung heroes stepping up. Quinn Sullivan stepping up last week. You have a bunch of guys are coming through. And now, like in this game, you get, like I said, the old dog himself, Jacob Glasnow, came up finding the back of the net.
Yeah.
Bruno is finding the back of the net. You're getting some good quality goals, and which is going to work for you heading down the road and into the stretch.
And just accumulating points. I mean, right now, the Philadelphia Union are sitting in second place in the Eastern Conference at 19 points. They have a plus 10 goal differential, which is the best in the Eastern Conference. It's only second place to Vancouver and all of them MLS. So, again, I mean, we talked about in the comments as well, 5th shutout this season. The back line has not been perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but they're finding a way to just squeak out these wins, and this goal differential is beginning to increase, and it's all about confidence now. Changing the culture with what we have from Curtin and building forward to Cornell. Does anybody here think the Union are going to win the MLS Cup this year? Probably not.
No.
But you at least can have a good momentum to next year, and maybe, if you're lucky, pull out an Open Cup victory.
And again, like as much as we're just sitting there and you talk about some of the unsung heroes and guys who are stepping up, but I think one of the most key parts is, and this is probably goes to the coaching staff, but I have yet to see Andre Blake being as locked in as he is now.
Yeah,
and that could be credit to the defense that's in front of him because even like I said, in the first half they got beat off the rush a few times, but he was in there. He's reading what the offense is throwing out. He's reading what the opposition is bringing to his doorstep. So now the game's coming to him easier. And then we get, the defense in the second half who just played one-on-one lockdown defense, taking away scoring opportunities, giving, DC United, tough shots to take, stuff like that. And then realistically, it's not going to matter who your opponent is. It could be Miami. If you could play like this, and I get it, Miami is the team to beat, right? We all know Miami is the gold standard. But if you could shut down and play Miami like this, you never know.
No, you never know. And I think overall, to see Andre Blake moving the way he did today, he looked great on his dives. He looked great on his free kicks. He looked great on his volley. Everything looked more like a healthy, ready to go Andre Blake. And we saw, I think it was in the the match after that. I believe if Andre Blake started, but Rick and Oliver were on the bench. So to see both goalkeepers, there's just only one goalkeeper on the bench. Okay, he's back. He's 100%. He's ready to go. That changes everything. I mean, we've said this time and time again. Andre Blake being healthy gives you how many points per year? Maybe 10 points a year at least, right? That's That's massive for a club trying to rebuild.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things, even last year, I'll piggyback when I had a conversation with Daniel Gosling. I said, you guys have an Andre Blake back there. He said, you're not overstressed in making passes. You're not overstressed. You have a security blanket back there where you're in the back of your mind. You're like, oh man, I got to play catch up because my goaltender's letting me down.
Yep.
No, you don't have those problems anymore. Hi, Manny. So yeah, it's a good thing to see.
Yeah, Mandy mentions here, I like seeing Indy and Quinn switch inside partway through to answer what DC was doing. Here's the thing with Indy. I love the fact that he went from that 10 position and he was slotted back to the 6, and he was almost more involved, more aggressive. His motor is very similar to Quinn Sullivan's. And you're talking about someone who's replacing Daniel Gozlak. I think a lot of times people were upset with Gozlak disappearing. I don't see that with Vasilev. I see him every single time I look at the field. He's somewhere. He's moving.
Yeah.
His motor is very similar to Quinn. So to have those two up top behind the forwards and then know that he can slot back and play really tough defense and continue to pressure. I mean, maybe Vasilev, maybe Tanner had the right idea, getting Daniel out of here. Maybe I would have not maybe seen him going to Columbus Crew, but
yeah,
it seems like so far it's been the right move.
It has been. It's kind of some of the moves that the Union front office has made. It does have you scratch your head, but every one they've made has been the right thing here because, like you just mentioned, some of the plays that they're mentioning, someone just brought about Ua. How okay has Ua been in these last two games for just being an assist guy, just being a pass option first in key moments. Like today, he sets up Bruno for that header goal. Yeah. And Bruno just bring the dogfight. He was getting held up by his defender, and he still found a way to make the play.
And the thing is, though, no offense to Donovan, but he's not making that move that Ua did to set up. Ua was reliable again, and maybe was he not impressive the entire match today? No, but he was good enough in the moment we needed him to seal the deal for this game. Frank says thoughts on Harrell as center back in place of McConaughey. Listen, Frank, I think Harrell being a center back is more so because Frankie Westfield's playing really well at right back.
Mm-hmm.
I think he moved really well with the midfielders. I thought he was aggressive in the attack. I think Harrell gives a little bit more reliability at center back, at least until Glavinovic comes back, which may not be for another 5 or 6 weeks, depending on how good his knee is. I don't think you put Macania or Pierre at center back. I think right now this is working. This pairing is working. Am I saying it's perfect? No, not at all. But you have to play Frankie Westfield. I think he needs to be starting on a consistent basis. He is just a quick, aggressive player, and he's not making any dumb mistakes.
No, and you're right. It's funny because it's watching these kids, translate their game from the Union to the big, to the major league here.
Yeah.
And a guy, I've come to a lot of Union 2 games and watching Frankie Westfield pick up as fast as he did.
Yeah.
And now he's become an assist machine, finding guys like Glezos today in a scoring opportunity and shoots in the rocks. Unbelievable.
I mean, Mandy highlights the experience that Nathan has. But, Frank, I think to your point with Nathan and Frankie here is I believe personally, I trust Frankie's crosses more than I trust Nathan Harrell's.
Yeah.
And I would rather see Nathan in the center back with those headers trying to go for the set pieces. I think this fits perfectly. I mean, I know last year Jim Curtin and Tanner kind of got in hot water, like, oh, you got rid of Damian Lowe, so your right back now has to be your third center back. But I think this might be the better position for Nathan. I mean, overall, especially with how well Westfield is playing, you kind of just have to figure it out. And I think the versatility, credit to Nate. He's not getting down on himself. He lost his right back position again, but he's finding his way into the lineup. I mean, he played the 10 at one point this year. It's not like he's unable to make the starting 11. So I kind of love it right now. I don't know if anyone wants to comment with their thoughts too, but I mean, I would like to see it next week. I mean, what do you think with Nathan Harrell, the center back?
Hey, listen, this is the Tuesday. We'll be in that U.S. Open tournament. I think it would be a perfect time to get his feet wet. Maybe actually, like you just said, maybe on the road up in Montreal. Montreal's winless. This is a perfect time for that kid to get his feet wet and bring him into a situation like this. It's they
are winless.
They're horrible. So I mean, listen, you could try Fang right now in that position. It wouldn't matter. I mean, this is the perfect time to get Nathan, Pierre in that role, see where he does, how he can go from there. And again, this is a big puppy that you're dealing with. Yeah. So bring him in, give him the world.
Yeah, it says Manny says put Nate in goal and he'll still give it 110%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Frank says Harry played well. He did. I think you almost forgot Nathan was there, which is a great thing for a defender. Sometimes it's good to forget that they're existing because that means you're not making any mistakes. And I think Mandy mentioned the experience. We saw Makanya had these moments where you could see his youth was kind of shining, and we see that Union too as well. He does make occasional mistakes. Nathan is a little bit more trustworthy, and he's going to make the right passes out, especially if you're playing out the back. So, but to your point with trying things out against weaker opponents, Atlanta, DC, and now Montreal, if you're going to experiment with anything, this is the time to do it. And I think that's a great point. And maybe we see more experimental stuff in the next two games. And then once Columbus comes around, all right, we have a good idea of what we're going to do.
Yeah, and now you have, again, like I said, this team is actually working in the right position. And I know there's Union fans. Well, they're only playing in DC. They only played Atlanta. That's fine. These are the get right games. These are the momentum builders. This is stuff you want to see things that work. Listen, we'd be crying a lot more if they came up with a couple of L's here. We would be questioning a lot more. But listen, for them to pick up some W's and start heading in Montreal, if you get another 3 points out of that, that's 9 points in the last 3 weeks. You're making up for the lost ground that you had in the last couple of weeks.
Absolutely. Mandy says here, Savram Bizo not see any minutes when we hit 3-0. I said put him in as a forward. Why not? Olivier is clearly the odd man out. But listen, if Olivier and Bizo is your last piece on the bench, that's not a bad piece of depth you got there in terms of clearly everyone above him is playing at a higher level. And I forgot my train of thought here. You mentioned the opponents in front of you. I mean, we see this with football a lot. Dominant teams destroy weaker opponents. Mm-hmm. If the Philadelphia Union beat Atlanta 1-0, they lost today, everybody would be, well, we got to fire Carnell. The whole team's in shambles. This roster sucks. You can only play the team that's in front of you, and you're doing it in convincing fashion. You have 6 goals in 2 games. I mean, yes. How can you complain right now?
No, you can't complain where the Union are currently. I know. Listen, they're second seed right now. They're 6-2-1. I didn't think this was going to happen. I thought this was going to be a downward spiral. Obviously, losing Jim Curry, you lose a couple other pieces. The team was kind of the same team. You run it back. All you're doing is, you didn't spend no money like everybody. Don't you know? What's up, Frankie James? You kind of ran with the same team that you had, except for you got rid of down guys. Like a lot of people thought Tanner was nuts for doing that. Yeah. But again, just like I kind of repeated myself, every move they make is all for the right direction. And right now, you can't question what the front office is doing. Now you got to kind of believe what the Union front office is now doing.
It's hard to not believe when the results are what we've seen over the last. And again, I mentioned on Thursday's show, you were an Andrew Rick mistake away from walking away from Citi Field with a 0-0 draw. Mm-hmm. You could potentially have 10 points in 4 games. I mean, all these things. You have to look at the context of the results. And it's hard to argue when it's working. Right now it's working. Does that mean we shouldn't add a piece? I think we should add a piece in the summer window. Bring on an extra midfielder. Bring on a center back. Bring on someone, and maybe Glavinovic is that player. When he comes back, he adds that extra dimension to the back line. I don't know. But right now, this team is playing good. Am I saying they're going to play great? No. But they're playing good enough to earn these results. Any final thoughts before I wrap up the show? I'm sure I'm going to get kicked out of this room soon enough.
You and me both.
Yeah, we're in the dining room, so we'll get kicked out soon.
They want to kick me out as soon as I walk through the building.
Come on. Not allowed here anymore.
No, not the Godfather and do not. But listen, my final thought is look, that like you just mentioned, with the Union the product that they're putting in front of you, everything's working. The one thing I have to take away, like I said, is the defense. Defense to me has been the key in the last 2 games. Everything shutting down scoring opportunities like last week was a major for me. Them surrounding Andre Blake would help. Them forcing Atlanta, and then in this game, even getting beaten off the rush there a few times, they were able to still give DC some bad shots. Yep. It could have been ugly, like you said, if Christian Banek was in there. Things could have been a lot worse, but. Listen, there was times where DC had some good opportunities, but they didn't pay. Nothing paid off for them. And you had one of the best goaltenders, like you said, when healthy. It just solidifies the offense so much better.
I think my final thought is going to the offensive side of things. We saw in a couple games this offense had like 20 shots with only 4 shots on target, and you're thinking, okay, the opportunities are there. but they're not capitalizing. Today and against Atlanta, we saw them capitalize on those opportunities. And yeah, did we get a little lucky? Sure. But at the end of the day, good teams finish, bad teams don't. And we saw that full display today. The good teams finish when they had to finish, and we got the 3-0 victory. So appreciate everybody joining us in the comments. Pat, man, I appreciate you joining. I appreciate you joining me today,
listen,
man.
I hear the Godfather. I'm going to hang out with the Godfather whenever I can.
Valerie was actually checking out Pexola, and she saw that Jameer Montero was out there. So we had a couple, the former Union players out there and the other leagues doing well. So good to see Jameer Montero getting some minutes out there. But this is Across the Pitch postgame show. I will probably be live again next Saturday after the Montreal match. So please check us out, AAT Sports Network. Mike Barrera, Embraer 1323. If you want to plug stuff, man, go ahead. This is your chance here.
Listen, guys, you can always check me. I do my writing here for Stream Punk Entertainment, but you can also catch me on It's a Rap Sports. Listen, I love hanging out with you, Mike. I noticed you guys have a good group of guys on this network. I love all you guys. You guys are nothing but hustlers. From you guys, Jeff, to the Steel Step guys. Good group of guys over here. So thank you so much. And to the people out there, stay with the Godfather. Stay with this guy.
Yeah, you're crazy, brother. Yeah. Everybody have a good afternoon. Go Union.